even mention that we're making Black Panther 2. Didn't come up. We didn't mention the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming. We didn't have time to talk about Captain Marvel 2, by the way. I didn't even have time to talk about the Fantastic Four. There's no time left to talk about mutants and how mutants. What is that?
Welcome everyone to Marvel Hub. This is DK Dynamite, and I can't believe we're already talking about Phase 5, but yes, it was confirmed behind the scenes, and I'll have images and some sources down below in the description. It was confirmed behind the scenes that Kevin Feige already revealed the entirety of Phase 4, so for anybody assuming that there was another half of Phase 4 or a couple of unannounced projects, I don't believe that's going to be the case. So anything else that he spoke about or anything else that's been rumored or heavily implied as in production will be for Phase 5 of the MCU. Now at first, I was a little skeptical about that. I'm like, wait, is Phase 4 really only going to last about 2 or so years? And when you look back at how long each of the other phases lasted, I believe Phase 1 probably lasted the longest at around 4 years. Obviously, it was the beginning of the MCU, so not everything was set in stone. It took a little bit of time before they got that massive crossover, or Avengers 1, on the big screen, but Phase 2 only lasted for roughly 3 years, or maybe about 2.5 as well. Then Phase 3 probably lasted around from 2016 to about 2019, so another 3 years or so. So it seems like every phase is always planned to last about 2 to 3 years, depending on the scheduling of the films, the release dates. That'll determine exactly how long a phase will last. Phase 1 lasted the longest, obviously, as I said, because it was the first phase of the MCU. They needed some time to get things off the ground, so it took a little bit longer than expected. But I think going forward, each phase will last about 2 years. So we obviously have Phase 4 planned out from 2020 till about, I believe it's the end of 2021, so roughly 2 years as well. So when it comes to Phase 5, and in terms of when we'll get an announcement about any of this, I believe next summer we could probably get an announcement about some early films for Phase 5, but people hoping that D23 will have them somehow, announce the slate to Phase 5, I believe it's way too soon for that. The only 2 films that are really in production right now is Black Widow, which is obviously getting shot at this time, but when it comes to Eternals, I think a majority of pre-production is planned out, while everything else is kind of just in the early stages of development. But, announcing Phase 5 before a majority of Phase 4 is even shot is definitely unlikely. But when it comes to what's actually in Phase 5 that we know of right now, we have Captain Marvel 2, Black Panther 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, SpiderMan 3, Blade, Fantastic Four, and some mutant projects. So with that being said, I'm not sure if by mutants Kevin Feige was just referring to all types of mutants, including Deadpool, or if the rumor was true and they're no longer going to be calling the X-Men team the X-Men, because apparently it's sexist with the word men in it, even though men can stand for men and women, and obviously human has the word man in it. So X-Men really isn't sexist, and obviously there are plenty of women who've had major roles in X-Men comics. They're a part of the X-Men, so I have no idea why they would change the name. I'm still going to be calling it X-Men here on the channel, but if that rumor is true, I'm a bit disappointed about that. But hopefully he just said mutants because he's also referring to Deadpool, who technically isn't a part of the X-Men all that much, but there's obviously other mutants out there besides the X-Men, besides Wolverine, that are worthy of having films and appearances and spin-off TV series. So hopefully that's what he meant by mutants. But I believe all of that will be Phase 5. Maybe there won't be as many TV shows on Disney Plus for Phase 5. A majority of Phase 5 is going to be movies, since we have a lot of sequels left to cover. So maybe that's going to happen in Phase 5. But yes, as confirmed by by Kevin Feige. Everything that was confirmed on that slate, which I'll have on screen, is for Phase 4, and that is the entirety of Phase 4. So when they announce Blade, that's actually a Phase 5 project. It will not be for Phase 4. But here's the thing. People need to remember that these slates are always subject to change, and the reason I say that is because obviously some release dates got shifted around for Phase 2 and Phase 3 films. Phase 3 obviously had some drastic changes. The release date of Captain Marvel was changed, an Inhumans movie was scrapped, Spider-Man Homecoming was just thrown in there, so there's a lot going on when it comes to Phase 3. And obviously Far From Home was in Phase 3 as well, so we had 2 Spider-Man movies in one phase, similar to how there were 2 Iron Man movies in Phase 1. So obviously expect some minor changes in the next year or so. There could be changes with the release date. They could add a movie in there. Obviously Sony has yet to announce Spider-Man 3, which I believe will probably be announced at D23. Even though it's a Sony thing, they may make a surprise appearance with Disney and say, yeah, we're definitely extending the contract. We have Spider-Man 3 coming out. And what I'll assume is that every 2 years is when they'll plan to have a solo Spider-Man movie. And then eventually you'll get to the point where in between, you know, each Spider-Man solo movie release, you'll have a spin-off Spider-Man movie, maybe like a Venom sequel or another villain movie, or maybe they'll finally wake up and say, you know what, we got to give all these villains back to Disney and Marvel so they can connect it in the MCU, so we can keep making these deals, these big budget movies with them, as we've been doing with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So that's really all they have to do. So obviously Disney and Marvel get all the profit from having Spider-Man in these team-up movies, but when it comes to solo Spider-Man movies, Sony gets a majority of that profit. So it's almost a no-brainer for Sony to keep doing this thing with them. And as I mentioned before, I believe in the live stream I did the other day covering Phase 4 and the official reveal and the countdown, I believe since Amy Pascal now works at Universal, she can make big deals happen with Hulk, Namor, all the Hulk assets, and every other asset that Universal currently owns over at their studio, which they obviously haven't utilized at all. So hopefully she can make some deals happen, and hopefully they say, you know what, Sony's making it work. They're being really successful with how they're handling their Spider-Man assets right now. So you know what, let's do the same thing. So expect that as well. We have no projects right now that are confirmed which involve the Hulk. So hopefully he appears in one of these projects. Hopefully we get some continuation to the storyline of him being Professor Hulk. Definitely want to see that. And also expect some other Disney Plus series to be announced for Phase 5. We had some rumored series for Gamora and Nebula, Groot and Rocket, and some other ones as well, which I'll put on screen. So let me know what you think of all this down below in the comment section. Once again, thank you guys for the support. On the recent video here on the channel, I had a buddy of mine, Taco, go over some really detailed descriptions of all the Phase 4 projects, thanks to Charles Murphy, who tweeted everything out here on Twitter. I was unavailable to record that, so I had him step in real quick to record a video. But I think it's interesting. We're talking about Phase 5 already, and I think it's cool that we do have an idea as to what's coming next, because Kevin Feige also confirmed that there is another Avengers movie happening. Probably won't be until Phase 5, maybe the very end of Phase 5, but the team will be very, very different. It'll be a mix of familiar characters and a mix of some new characters that haven't even been introduced yet. So once again, they're not going to rush that, and I know many years ago he said that every phase would end with an Avengers movie, but that was specifically for Phases 1, 2, and 3, and technically Phase 2 ended with Ant-Man, not even Avengers Age of Ultron. So I just think at that time he meant that yes, every phase would have a massive team-up movie at the end, obviously an Avengers movie, but going forward, Phase 4 seems like a bit of a break from that massive crossover team-up theme, really taking a break, you know, taking a few steps back, going back to the basics, doing some solo movies, introducing some characters, doing some much-needed sequels like Doctor Strange, introducing the new TV series on Disney Plus, showing how they really impact the movies, how they're impacted by the movies, and how you must watch them before certain movies in Phase 4. That's really what Phase 4 is doing. I believe Phase 5 is going to go back into that massive team-up theme where you're going to have Black Panther, you're going to have Captain Marvel, some more cameos, some more team-ups. That's probably where that's going to come in, besides, of course, WandaVision, which will really be impacting Doctor Strange too. I'm really looking forward to that. The madness of the multiverse. That's going to be important, but I think in terms of, you know, more movies like Thor Ragnarok, you'll probably see that more in Phase 5, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think right now, we're really going to be simple for the next year and a half, and then when it comes to Phase 5, we're going to jump right back into that crazy big budget action, which everybody is expecting. But I think it's great that Marvel's taking a step back, introducing new characters that may be featured on the new Avengers roster for big major threats, and we'll then have to see how that happens and how that will end up playing out in the next couple of years. But that is about it. This has been DK Dynamite. Check out links down below in the description, and turn notifications on to stay up to date with latest and greatest Marvel news and information, and peace out, everyone.